All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown, all three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be counting down the top 10 most Tolkien-esque, Tolkien-like fantasy series or fantasy books ever written. In other words, if you love Tolkien and you want more stuff that's like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, these are your top 10 books that are going to scratch that Tolkien itch for you. Trust me, I've read damn near every fantasy book ever written. These are the top 10. Just without question. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to disagree with some of these. It happens. I know. I mean, all I got to tell you is it must physically hurt you to be so wrong when you disagree with me. It just must physically hurt to be so wrong. But that's a you problem, not a me problem at all. I mean, if you're going to be wrong, you're going to be wrong. That's on you. This list is the top 10 Tolkien. I mean, some of my other top 10 lists, you could quibble with a few things. This one, no, this is unquibblable. Unquibblable. Okay, when I mean, what is Tolkien like? What kind of things? Okay, let's talk about the writing style. Some of these books are going to have like a Tolkien-esque writing style. Some of these books are going to be on the list because they've got, I mean, Tolkien had the elves, the dwarves, the magicians, the fighters, the little hobbits, the goblins and the orcs and the dragons and the evil dark lords. Some of these books are going to have all of that stuff too. That's why it's on the list. Some of them might combine even the great writing style of Tolkien with all of the other things that I mentioned. So that's what I mean when I say Tolkien-esque. So, there's 10 books on the list, but I do have one honorable mention. And the honorable mention, even though it doesn't have elves and dwarves and things like that, it does have a Dark Lord, and it does have a group of people that go on a quest, a fellowship quest. That's another thing that is Tolkien-esque. The fellowship, the quest, people journeying across vast expanses of fantasy landscapes to achieve a goal, to destroy one ring, or to find a magic sword, or whatever they're going to do. They're traveling, and one of the biggest travelogue Tolkien-esque series in existence is going to make my honorable mention, even though there are no orcs, and there are no dwarves, and there's no elves, and there's no, Galadriel or anything, but it's the Wheel of Time is the most travelogue adventure quest series ever, and so it goes into my honorable mention, and I think you can see why. Okay, so now let's start with a lot of these books are going to be they're kind of old-timey. A lot of these are from, I think mostly exclusively, all of these are from like the 70s and 80s and 90s. Book number 10, the series number 10, is Joel Rosenberg's Guardians of the Flame series. It's got dwarves and wizards and dragons and everything. This is a series that's older, from the 80s, the early 80s, wherein some people are playing Dungeons and Dragons, and yes, they get swept off into a Tolkien-esque world that they have to live in, and it's very, very Tolkien-esque. One of the reasons this finished 10 and not higher is because it's a lot darker than Tolkien ever wanted to be. But this is, if you like Tolkien stuff, this is a good place to start if you can find these books. Starting with The Sleeping Dragon, that's Joel Rosenberg's Guardians of the Flame. And then we're going to get to some more 80s and 90s stuff. Trust me when I say these are Tolkien-esque. But you have to say R.A. Salvatore's Drizzt series, starting with, I think, the most Tolkien-esque of the Drizzt series. The Dark Elf is the Crystal Shard. I think this is the most Tolkien-esque. That's why this is on the list. I mean, this is straight Dungeons and Dragons mixed with J.R.R. Tolkien. It's got dwarves, elves, dark elves. It's got everything that Tolkien would have approved of, I believe. So that is a Tolkien-esque series, believe it or not. The Dark Elf series by R.A. Salvatore. Another, and this is going to follow right on the heels of the Forgotten Realms book. We're also going to put the Dragonlance books in Tolkien-esque also, because they've got quests, they've got adventures, they've got dragons, they've got dark lords, they've got elves and dwarves and orcs and everything. This is another Dungeons and Dragons based world. So I will say the Forgotten Realms is Tolkien-esque and the Dragonlance is Tolkien-esque. Like I said, you can't disagree with this. It will physically hurt you to disagree with it. Another 80s, I'm just going to be honest, they're all from the 80s. They're just all from the 80s. 80s or 90s. We don't get a lot of Tolkien-esque stuff modern day. You know, we could consider my series a little bit Tolkien-esque just because it's got elves and dwarves and things like that. Magician Apprentice, Tolkien-esque. The whole Rift War saga by Raymond Feist, Tolkien-esque. You've got the elves, the dwarves, you've got magic quests, you've got bad guys and things. The only twist on this one was there's a magic portal that takes you into another land. And so that's kind of like where that is. But I mean, here you got Gandalf and Frodo right on the cover. I mean, how can you not say that that's not Tolkien-esque? So Raymond Feist's series. Oh, and this one is very, number 6. What was that? Number 7? Number 6 is, I mean, it is so epic and grand in scale and so Tolkien. It even has character kind of like Gollum. There's even like a Gollum-esque character in this series. But that would be the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. Talk about Tolkien but dark. This is so Tolkien. This is so darkly Tolkien, it's almost anti-Tolkien, if that makes sense. But even an anti-dark Tolkien is Tolkien enough to make it into this Tolkien list. I mean, that is that looks like a scene right out of Tolkien, you know, that Darrell K. Sweet. So the Thomas Chronicle Covenants, that's not the way it is. The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, very epic, very Tolkien-esque. This one, even writing style-wise, is kind of getting to that area where it's Tolkien-esque. Story-wise, the land, I think, is every bit as vast and magical as Middle-earth. So if you want to read a very dark version of Middle-earth, this is where you need to go. Okay, my top 5 are really, really 100% spectacular Tolkien-esque fantasy series. And I'm going to start with one of my favorite fantasy series of all time, and that is The Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams. This here employs such gorgeous writing with a Tolkien-esque flair that is almost unmatched in any book or series on this list. Plus, the story is a quest tale, a coming-of-age tale. Let's go find magic swords to destroy the evil Dark Lord coming out of the north tale, all wrapped up into some of the most gorgeous storytelling you'll ever see. And so Tad Williams definitely makes most Tolkien-esque top 5 fantasy series of all time. Now this one is even everything I said about Tad Williams, let's just say about this next series. And I pulled all 3 books out in the trilogy, and that would be the Fiannavar Tapestry by Guy Gavriel Kay. Comes in at number 4. And if you've read these, you know why. Again, you know, with Joel Rosenberg's Sleeping Dragon, Guardians of the Flame series, about a group of people that get pulled into a magic realm. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons and get pulled into a magic realm. Well, that's exactly the premise of this book, these books too. A group of college students are playing a magic, some sort of game or something. They might not even, I don't even know if they're playing a magic game in this. It's been about 5 years since I really delved into these. But anyway, they are modern day people that are swept up into a fantasy realm that mimics and quite vividly sort of the things that are kind of going on in Tolkien's world. Again, this is maybe a little bit darker and a middle, but it's every bit as well written and gorgeous to read. Gorgeous to read. Guy Gavriel Kay. Whenever I read Guy Gavriel Kay's writing, I want to give up on my own writing because I know I'll never reach those lofty heights that Guy Gavriel Kay reaches. And these are very Tolkien-esque. There was something else I was going to say about these, but I've forgotten. Oh, yes, I remember. One of the reasons these are very Tolkien-esque is because, believe it or not, Guy Gavriel Kay was one of the people with Christopher Tolkien who kind of compiled that book, The Silmarillion, and some of the unfinished tales of Tolkien. So if you've ever read any of that, Guy Gavriel Kay had a hand in that. That's pretty Tolkien. Book number 3 in my top 10 is... Everybody says this is a Tolkien clone, so it has to go. I think maybe it's a Tolkien clone, but I mean, maybe it is a step-by-step retelling of The Lord of the Rings with a few little twists here and there. But it's one of my favorite fantasy novels of all time. In fact, it's the fantasy novel that got me interested in writing. It's the first fantasy novel I ever read, so it has to be on this book, and that is The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. Comes in at number 3 as one of the most Tolkien-esque fantasy series. I mean, this has everything in The Lord of the Rings that is in this book. I mean, the writing style might not be Tolkien-esque, but certainly the quest for the magic item, the young villagers that are from the Shire that are going off and meeting other adventurers that are far more skilled than they are. As you know, of course, there's the dwarves, the elves, the fighters, the rangers, the magic users, the druids, the magicians, all of that, the thieves, everything. I mean, everything is in this. On top of the magic sword, the quest for the magic sword, there's big battles. I mean, it is very, 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 very Tolkien-esque. And one of my favorite books of all time, and the very first ever fantasy book that I ever read, has a special place in my heart. If you want to watch any of my other discussions about this book, just type in my last name, Durfee, into your YouTube search bar. Sword of Shannara, or Terry Brooks, also type that in through some sort of pagan sorcery. You know it. Those reviews will magically appear upon your screen. Number 2. What on earth could be number 2? Well, it's another trilogy. Well, actually, every book that this guy writes could be considered Tolkien-esque. And this is the guy that writes all of his books in the land of Mythgar, and that is Dennis L. McKiernan. And I pulled out the Iron Tower trilogy. He's got about 15 books in this very, very Tolkien-esque world. But I think the Iron Tower trilogy I have here is the most Tolkien-esque of the Tolkien books. And that starts with The Dark Tide, Shadows of Doom, The Darkest Day. I mean, these books were illustrated by Alan Lee, who is the Tolkien illustrator. The guy that worked on the movies as the art guy. And not only that, but these books were originally... If you followed any of my reviews of Dennis L. McKiernan books, you know that I've mentioned this before, and it is well known that Dennis L. McKiernan originally wrote these books as actual sequels to The Lord of the Rings. And they almost got published as actual sequels to The Lord of the Rings. I mean, he wrote in J.R.R. Tolkien's writing style with characters from Middle-earth, and they were almost published, and then the publisher backed out and said, well, that doesn't seem right. We don't want it to be like Dune, where other people are writing in the series, or the Tom Clancy books where Tom Clancy's dead, and now everybody else is writing Jack Ryan novels. We don't want that for Tolkien. So they eventually pulled the idea off the shelf, but then Dennis L. McKiernan published them with a different publisher, and he just changed all the names of the characters and the different things, and it made it his own. Instead of Middle-earth, it's now called Mythgar. And they're fucking dynamite. I mean, I love that story. And I think that these are, I mean, there's in this series, there are a good 15 books that sound and read exactly as if Tolkien had written them. So that is why they finished number 2 on my list. Pray tell, what pray tell could you think of that could be more Tolkien than that? Well, there is one other series that is more Tolkien than that. And the ones that I've listed are already pretty in Tolkien. And you might be thinking in your head, I don't know what it could be, Durfee. What could be the number 1 Tolkien-esque fantasy series ever that you haven't already mentioned? Well, there is one. And that is Tolkien himself. I mean, he has to finish number 1 on a list where he's the main star. So, yeah, The Lord of the Rings, starting with The Fellowship of the Ring, is literally the most Tolkien-esque of all the Tolkien-esque fantasy novels ever written. I mean, it just is. It absolutely 100% is. It doesn't finish in 4th place. Doesn't finish in 8th place. It's never going to be an honorable mention on this list. It will be number 1, as the official scorecard says right there. And that, my friends, is another top 10 list. Down the drain. We'll see you next time.